In a tent in Nipomo, California, a mother waited with her children and became the subject of one of the most famous photographs of the Great Depression. But this photograph is not the story of one woman, but two. Dorothea Lange and her subject, Florence Thompson, were bound together by that photograph set at a pea harvest's nomad city in a California town called Nipomo. But how these two women ended up at the same camp, in the rain, in the cold of February, is a story not just about a series of photos, but about government programs and climate, the search for a home away from the dust, and two intersecting paths that changed history. Florence Thompson was born in 1903 in the Cherokee Territory of Tahlequah, Oklahoma, near the Arkansas border. That itself was a result of Cherokee displacement from the southeastern United States due to the Indian Removal Act, often known as the Trail of Tears. Tahlequah became the Cherokee national capital. Long before the Great Depression and Dust Bowl, in 1925, Thompson and her family immigrated to California, working up and down the state in Oroville, Porterville, and Merced Falls. They entered an existing system in which workers traveled through California during the harvest. This paper from 1938 is a great account. It describes the typical migratory labor pattern. Now remember the author, Paul S. Taylor's name, because it will show up again. The thing driving this migration is that peak seasonal labor requirements occur at different times. In Southern California, February and March and September and October were key for the harvest. In the San Joaquin Valley, it was August, September, and October. In the Sacramento Valley, May and June. In the valleys of the coast, May to October. So it is California's climate, right, that is causing this movement of tens of thousands of people up and down California. And without that climate, Florence Thompson and her family, they aren't taking the same path either. You can follow this map that Taylor made by following 50 families of agricultural laborers. This one focuses on white families. The wider the line is, the more frequently that route was traveled during the year. The main difference from the Mexican families that Taylor followed is that white families often traveled further north. Marysville for peaches, south for grapes and cotton. Thompson occasionally took other jobs like waitressing, but she and her family, they were swept up in this like a current. Even though this was all before the Depression and the Dust Bowl, the migratory labor patterns were pretty established. By 1931, Thompson had 5 children and was pregnant with a 6th child when her husband died. She shortly returned to Oklahoma before moving back to California and Shafter, working alongside potato farmers and squatters like these. She remarried, and she and her family were working in the Imperial Valley in 1936 when they started north toward Watsonville, hoping to find work picking lettuce. Dorothea Lange was born 8 years before Florence Thompson in 1895, across the country in Hoboken, New Jersey. She contracted polio at 7, which gave her a limp that she later recorded in these photographs of her polio-damaged foot. Schooled in the Lower East Side in Manhattan, she quickly became aware of tenement housing and urban poverty. Her proximity to New York, however, it also meant that she was close to world-class photographers, like her employer, Arnold Genta, who was a star name in portraiture for photographs like this one of dancer Isadore Duncan. Genta had come to New York from San Francisco, where he documented Chinatown in photographs like these. And San Francisco is where Lange ended up. She took studio portraits of the wealthy, much like Genta had. But from her Sutter Street studio, she published an artist's statement that would stay familiar. Let's have portrait photographs that are real and true and individual. I want to pause here to underscore Lange's personal story because it's necessary to understand how geography brought her to take that picture in Nipomo. Here she is in 1935, a year before Migrant Mother. I'm giving you all these personal details to show you that Lange wasn't a poverty tourist. She was always an outsider. Her life might have been a little bit easier than Thompson's, but it wasn't a walk in the park. I mean, she contracted polio young. She wasn't born rich. Her father left her family. She had it hard, and that makes her accomplishments more impressive. It also shows that she didn't have wealth to insulate her from the ways that geography and the economy would change her life. In the 1930s, the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl roughly overlapped. Both drove migration. Poor farming techniques and drought had created massive dust storms like this one. All these trends drove migrants to California. By 1936, so many Oklahomans had moved to California that they were referred to as Okies. Still, Thompson was more like a Venn diagram with these Okies. She overlapped in being from Oklahoma, but as a Cherokee from a different part of the state, she had her own unique path to California. As this big change was happening in society, Lange turned her camera outside her studio. She'd taken non-studio portraits before, like this one in Taos, New Mexico in 1931. But her home in San Francisco put her near many shanty towns and massive unemployment, like the White Angel breadline, where thousands received care daily, and where she took this photograph. Note the composition: one face forward, most of the rest turned away. Subsequent photographs in the next few years covered Depression-era poverty. The Depression and Dust Bowl damaged her studio portraiture business, but they changed her focus and changed her life. She divorced her first husband and married Paul S. Taylor in 1935, the agricultural economist who, if you remember, would go on to write that migration study. It's from 1938. Their marriage was a true combination of attraction to each other and each other's work. He loved this city woman's photography, and she loved the agricultural economist's focus. Lange was hired for a new job, working originally for the state and then various government agencies. This was a New Deal era attempt to help the agricultural worker in a ton of ways, including camps for migrant workers. This map shows the idea. These proposed camps would, in theory, help migrant workers along common agricultural routes, just like the ones that Taylor studied. Lange's photographs were a form of documentation, but also a kind of propaganda to secure funding for these programs. Lange herself noted in 1935 that all races served the crops in California. Filipinos, whites, blacks, and Mexicans were all migrant workers. Many of these so-called Okies, however, were white, and that narrative dominated because it sold easier to the American public at large and bureaucrats back in Washington. This also ran parallel to the forced repatriation of hundreds of thousands of Mexican laborers that was occurring around the same time. Lange traveled up and down the map, finding sympathetic field workers in Riverside County, showing camps in Marysville, and watching the children who lived through it. And so all of these stories, they were leading her up and down California, searching for the photograph that would make the best case for more help. Thompson said that in February 1936, she and her family were traveling north on Highway 101 on their way to Watsonville. They stopped in Nipomo. The car's timing chain broke, a place where peas grew, but the nation was held in a cold grip, and there had been enough rain to halt picking. The camp was cold and flooded. That month, Lange had been in LA recording subsistence homesteads, and Bakersfield documenting squatters. She traveled up Highway 101, just as Thompson had, which she had photographed too. She was en route to her home in Berkeley when she saw a sign for a pea pickers camp. She passed it. 20 miles later, she turned back. That year, she found other pea pickers, like these ones, who recorded their words. This life is simplicity, boiled down. But this time, Lange wrote about the pea pickers' homes half a mile off Highway 101, at Nipomo, one of 6 camps. She took a picture, went closer, and closer. And like her photograph of a breadline, made sure that one face was turned toward her. And then Dorothea Lange and Florence Thompson both drove away. The rest of this story, you could argue that it's kind of a mess, the immediate stripping of Thompson from the picture of the Migrant Mother. Lange sent off the photo, and because the government was providing these photos for free, it got published everywhere. The list of publications was like a trophy case. Money and resources were sent to Nipomo, but Thompson and her family were long gone. They had fixed the car and gone up near Watsonville. The captions that accompanied the picture were often wrong. In Survey Graphic, they said that they had sold the very tent that she was sitting in. And in later versions of the work, her thumb was removed because Lange considered it an obvious flaw. Thompson's identity wasn't even known until decades later, and she was confused why she hadn't seen a penny from the picture. But even with that semi-tragic epilogue, I would argue that this image, it is still meaningful. Right now, it is overfarmed, it is overgrazed. There is nothing real left for us to grab onto, but it is the history and the geography that save us from that save her from the banality of symbolism. Rather than seeing an icon, once we know the story behind this photo, we can see a moment again. We can see two women and how they were brought together by geography and history, but also by their individual perseverance to a half-frozen pea field in Nipomo in late February 1936. And with the help of children, they made sure that moment was one that we would still remember. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. This video stands on the shoulders of some incredible books and other resources that I've linked in the description below. You will also find an article that I've written getting a little more into Thompson's life itself. I was so focused on the geography here, but I wanted to give you a kind of summary of her life and how this picture ended up affecting it. You will find that in my newsletter. Every time I publish a video, I send out a newsletter that is sort of announcing the video, but also giving you an article about something that I couldn't fit into the story that I still found fascinating. And so that's what I have for you this week. It is completely free to subscribe to this newsletter, and paid subscribers can then also check out a reaction video and chat and have stuff like that. We are well on our way to 2,000 subscribers to this newsletter, and it's just a way for me to give you more information, to kind of stay connected, and if I do anything else in the future, you'll be the first to know. So thank you for considering subscribing to that. Other than that, I would love to know what you think about this photograph and about the history. There's a lot to get into. I will be responding to the comments with any research that I found along the way. And otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.